Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have another special guest on. And as many of you that watch and listen to the show, you know that I always love having finance professionals on the show because that's my background. So maybe I'm a little biased, but today I have a great mind and influencer in the field of finance, Mr. Andy Burrows. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Andy, tell us a little bit about what was your background before you started your current business?
So I trained as an accountant, and I started in public practice, as a lot of accountants do, and quickly moved into the business side of things. So I went to work for a bank first of all, and then, since then, that was about 25 years ago, I've worked in business finance teams, large and small, and sort of worked my way up. And at one stage I was a finance director, but I've done lots of different things. So, but mainly in the, in that business finance function space, really.
Gotcha. Now, was there anything about, like, say, whether it was growing up or just something you saw or just beforehand that made you want to even start the journey down the accounting and finance track?
Um, no, it was really an accident. And this is it may not be obvious. I started off as a musician, to be honest, and I really wanted to go into music production, and and I was going to go off to university to study music, but unfortunately, I didn't get the right grades. So I had to do a massive rethink when I was 18, of, was I going to pursue music or was I going to go to university? And I chose university and ended up, my best subject was maths. And I thought, well, maths was going to drive me around the bend, if I don't have something to keep me sane. So I tried to choose something practical. And I thought, well, accounting sounds like a bit of a practical maths application. So I thought, well, let's do accounting and maths at university. So that's what I did. And then the rest is history. I came out, graduated, went to study accounting at one of the firms of accountants, and got qualified and went on from there. So it was a bit accidental, really. I didn't even really know what an accountant was back in whatever it was, 1988.
Now, speaking of that, like, knowing what an accountant is, like, how did you find that process of going from accounting in, the accounting firm to moving more to the business side? Like, how was that shift for you?
It was it was great. I mean, I that's the first thing I'll say. I mean, it was so much more interesting, being in a business. And that was one of the reasons I got out of accounting and public practice, because after I'd qualified and then I'd been there another year, and I was starting to see the same audits and the same clients and the same accounts, and I was just moving, last year's, this year's into last year's column, and it was all the same, year after year. So I thought, going into industry would be a learning experience in using that accounting knowledge, and that's exactly what it turned out to be. One of the first surprises was that management accounting was a lot less strict than public accounting. So it was a bit worrying for me, having being told, oh, you can just put that accrual in, it doesn't have to mean anything. Um, yeah, yeah, that was a little bit unnerving for me, and I still don't agree with it anyway, by the way. But things get done on a monthly cycle. It gets done very fast. People have to, you put reports together very quickly. Again, you get to learn to talk to people in the business, in a way that they can understand it. So. In a accounting practice, you're generally talking to other accountants, unless you're going to talk to the client's finance team. And again, they're accountants. So, but when you're talking to a HR person or operations or marketing, it's you generally have to think about what you say and how to put it in their language.
Mhm. Okay. Now, moving a little bit forward now into, your current business that you have. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that, how you started it, and what that journey's been like.
Well, it's been a long journey, to be honest. I'll try and condense it as much as I can, but it is quite long. In my finance career, over the first few years, I had a kind of steep climb. So I became a finance director by the time I was about 29, 30. And then I went through a period of being made redundant sort of 3 or 4 times in the space of 6 or 7 years. Through no fault of my own, I was just in the wrong company when they were doing restructurings and all sorts of things. So I ended up starting to go into sort of contract positions, so short-term contracts, like freelancing basically, still in the finance function. And I started to see myself, this freelancing, as a bit of a business, because that's the way you have to be. You have to sell yourself into your next position. And as I did that, I started to see, and I needed a website for that. So I set up my own website. And then I started getting interested in, well, if I can set up my own website, then, I started getting interested in internet business. And I started blogging. And this is going back to about 2009 now. So I've got this idea in my head that I want to set up an internet business. And then over the next 10 years, I then sort of hit a few roadblocks. I tried a few things that didn't work. And but at the same time, I was knocked off course by I had some health issues. So I had cancer basically 4 times in the last 10 years.
Wow.
So it's kind of felt like every time I can't really get a run at things. So I've tried to set things up. It's either not been the right idea, or I've got ill and put it down and then come back. And but I've never given up on it. It got to 2016, and I was a bit fed up that I hadn't actually started anything, or I hadn't got anywhere with anything. And I'd always avoided the finance niche because, again, the way the sort of received wisdom is in looking at whether a niche is profitable. I was using that analysis, sort of strategic analysis, on the niche of finance professionals, and it wasn't profitable. And so I was continually saying, well, I won't do that. It may be, what I am, an accountant, a finance professional, but that's not going to be a professional, it's not going to be a profitable niche. But when it got to September 2016, I thought, well, I'm not getting anywhere. So I might as well not get anywhere doing something that I actually enjoy. So I thought, well, stuff it, basically. I'm just going to start blogging about finance, set up a website, set up Supercharged Finance, and see how it goes. And then at least I'll be doing something rather than just thinking about doing something. So that's really how Supercharged Finance got started. And I guess I've been surprised a little bit by the way I've been received in the finance kind of thought leadership community, and the way it's gone, really.
Awesome. And that's how I came across you, from seeing some of the things that you shared on LinkedIn. So tell us a little bit about what are the types of material that you put out, or the types of products or services that you offer.
So in terms of the products and services, really it's online learning material, basically. So online courses, ebooks, things like that. Because I wanted to share my experience to as wide a community as possible of people who work in finance. So the only way to do that get the message around the world is via the internet. So online courses and those kind of things. And really my emphasis is all about helping finance people in business to realize that they're there to help the business. So they're not just there to crunch numbers, churn out reports, put together budgets every year and fiddle around with numbers. These numbers actually mean something, and actually as finance professionals, we've got a lot to offer our business colleagues in terms of helping them to make both strategic and operational decisions, and help to manage the business. So I really wanted to use the experience I've got to help other finance professionals to help their businesses more and get better.
Awesome. So where can, the listeners and the viewers and potential customers, where can they find your products online, and where can they follow you on social media to see what you're up to?
So the best thing to do is to go to the website, which is www.superchargedfinance.com. And on there, the best way really to follow is to sign up for the newsletter. So get on the mailing list, and then you'll see everything to do with products that I'm launching and stuff like that. Some of the products that I run, some of the online courses and programs that I run are not advertised on the website, so you'll only see them if you're on the mailing list, or if you see me on social media. And as you referred to, the place that I'm most prevalent on social media is LinkedIn. That seems to be the place for sort of professionals. So if you look me up, Andy Burrows on LinkedIn, I'll be there. Follow or connect. That would be great.
Awesome. Now, before we wrap up, one question that I like to ask every guest that comes on is, when you think about, your journey and the different things that you've learned along the way, and you think about, your expertise of finance and accounting, what are 2 tips that you would share with entrepreneurs to say, these are things that as an entrepreneur, you should grasp, or at least begin to grasp, to be successful as an entrepreneur?
Wow, it's a difficult question actually, because it's funny because I've just put out an article about my reflections or lessons I've learned as a finance person and being an entrepreneur. So would I do finance now in the same way that I've had the experience of being an entrepreneur? And actually, I think some of my reflections are I'd probably do things slightly differently. Like, in my business, I don't do a budget, but I've spent years doing budgeting in companies. So why is that? That's a interesting question. In terms of advice as a finance person for entrepreneurs, it'll come back to the same old things, which is cash is king. That's absolutely essential to know. Is you can be making a profit and you can still run out of money. So that's one thing. And I guess another thing is that I've said on occasions to small business owners is make a plan. It may not be, all plans are going to be wrong. As I've said, even in my own business, all my forecasts are wrong. Every single forecast that I've done has been wrong, but it doesn't matter. What it shows you is kind of what's possible on the basis of some assumptions. And then if you then don't achieve that, it'll be because of some of the assumptions. But if you keep on checking that, you'll be able to predict some of the problems before they arise, if you just keep on looking at a sort of forecast. So I guess it's cash flow and cash flow forecasting.
Awesome. Well, Andy, thank you so much for coming on to the show. And I guess before we wrap up, what is the name of that blog or the article that you just released that has your reflections?
It's called 4 Lessons for Finance from an Entrepreneur.
Got it. So if you're listening, you're watching, check out that article. So Andy, thank you so much for coming on and giving us some time of sharing your story and your wisdom. Really enjoyed having you on the show.
Thanks very much. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, be sure to click the subscribe button and follow us on all social media platforms as the Business Talk Library.